Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Jeremy Siskind. I don't really say y'all. I don't know why I did that. But the first thing I do in all my videos is hold up my books. Jazz Piano Fundamentals, Volume 1. Jazz Piano Fundamentals, Volume 2. Playing solo jazz piano, all of which you can get from my website, plus this new Jazz Piano Fundamentals Book 1 and 2 together, which you can get the PDF from my website, or if you want to save a little money on buying both books, you can get the full book from Amazon. Just be warned, it is a giant book. It's 467 pages, I think. So let me confess something to you, my valued YouTube audience. The tunes that I enjoy composing and the tunes that I like improvising on are very different. I really love improvising on really easy tunes so that I can just be free, listen, think about developing motifs, etc. Whereas I don't want to really compose just kind of boring major 251 tunes. So I'm preparing for a trio gig in New York, Mesro, in October. I think it's the 17th or 18th. Hope some of you can make it. And I'm trying to play a bunch of these tunes that I've written, which means that I need to practice these really difficult chord changes. And so I wanted to look at one of those tunes and show you some of the ways that I'm trying to practice it. So that's the plan for today. Let me show you this tune first, or I'll show you at least the solo section. And we're just going to be looking at these first 16 bars before we get to where it says rock out. There will be no rocking out on this YouTube channel. But the chords, you're not going to see a 2-5-1 here, I don't think. It's kind of this very modern, let's say Meldau or Matheny-ish vocabulary. Tune of mine called Balance, and yeah, you can see that the chords are just kind of all over the place. And I've actually already simplified the chords to make it easier for improvising from what they look like in the head. In the head, they're kind of coming in different spots. All right, so this is hard. I can improvise over it. I know my scales. And there's not that many weird scales in here. Probably those of you who have been studying for a while can figure out what scales you want to use. C major, A flat melodic minor, E Dorian, D flat major, maybe D flat Lydian, and then E Lydian, F sharp Lydian, G Dorian probably, A Dorian, B Dorian. So, that's not the issue. I know my scales. I could shred over the, I could... I can do it, but I want to be able to play something meaningful. I want to be able to make some melodies that I really like. So let's explore together. I don't have that much of a plan for this session, but I thought that we could talk. And I'm going to lean this camera in just a little bit because I am a professional. People like, oh, you're a YouTuber. And I'm like, I am? News to me. So one of the first things that I like to do with difficult tunes like this is I like to find some through lines, some melodies that maybe help to explain why some of the chords are there, or that I can kind of put in to tie the chords together. So let me make this bigger. And full disclosure, a good way to do this sometimes is to look at the melody. So actually, let's go back. Here's the melody for the first 4 measures of balance. I'll keep going just a little bit. So it's not so difficult looking at the melody to say, oh, we've got E to E flat, D to D flat. Oh, even though these chords look totally random, they're actually kind of based in this descending line. And you might even say, here, this is almost like an E flat major triad. And and here it's like D over E. And then we'll go to D flat. Here we could think E minor. So all of a sudden, from this thing that looks completely illogical, right? C to A flat minor major 7 over C flat to E minor to D flat. Now we're creating some logic. And not only that, but we have this other melody here that's going B, B flat, A, and then we don't actually get an A flat, but I think it's kind of implied, right? It's not crazy that on a D flat over A flat, we could have an A flat. So suddenly, if I'm improvising, first thing is I want to think about these guide tone lines. So E to E flat, D to D flat. And if I'm practicing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to improvise simple things, and just practicing these first 4 measures, thinking about these guide tone lines. So let's see what happens. You won't be able to see me here. It's no major loss. You know what I look like. So... try putting that guide tone on an octave up so I can improvise below it. Let's see if that gets me some different results. So I want to practice using that, and then I have, I could make this blue guide tone line, which we said was B to B flat. This is also from that melody, A to A flat. And then, I could kind of presume, I was thinking about those triads, right? We could fill in a third for each of these triads. I'm going to write it in red, I guess, in the top line. We got G, G, G. And that could either move to F or to A flat. But if we're thinking about thirds, actually, we'll go G, G, F sharp would be the third for the triad over E. So some of you are probably confused what I mean by triads. What I'm talking about is I have an E and a B on the C major. So that's like the outside notes of an E minor or major, but it's a C major chord, so we'll fill it in with the fifth, right? So it's like an E minor triad now. Same thing with the next chord. We've got an E flat and a B flat. And again, I'll fill it in so it's like an E flat major triad. So now I've got 3 different guide tone lines to play around with. Let's see what this top one sounds like. so now I feel like I'm starting to get to know the harmony a little bit better. So what I did is I looked for what was tying that section together, and then I tried to practice around that instead of trying to make these things that don't fit together. Okay, let's look now at the next couple of bars of the solo section, which are two major 7 sharp 11 chords. So one thing that we can always do when we have parallel chords is we can make a sequence. Okay, so let's call that option 1, and that's kind of especially compelling here if I zoom out a little bit, because what happens right after is that we have another group of chords moving up by a whole step, right? So, it's kind of like there's one moving up by a whole step in measures, I don't know if you can see the numbers, 48 through 49, and then with a completely different chord type, they're moving up by a whole step. So that would be probably the first way that I would practice these measures. So I might, practice one measure of phrases and then moving those phrases up by a whole step. So that's always going to have a logic. When the chords move and you're moving the melody the same amount, we call that a sequence. Just in case you're confused, I'm doing 2 different sequences, one for the first box, one for the second box. Now, I've practiced transposing, right? You got to practice transposing to be able to do this. I'm sure there's people who have practiced transposing more than me, but I'm pretty decent, And, if we're looking into the next line, we're moving up by whole step one more time from A to B. So we could have a 3-part sequence. So that's one way that things could fit together. But I think it's also fun to find common pentatonics, because then you can use that same scale, or yeah, sure, it's a scale. It's a pentatonic scale for the whole group. So I'm pretty sure that I can use the E pentatonic for both of these chords. It's going to conflict a little bit with that sharp 11 in the F sharp major, but I think if I'm careful about not emphasizing, then I think it's going to be okay. Let's see. Actually, I'm an idiot, and the F sharp pentatonic is much better, because that, right, the E major 7 sharp 11 is like F sharp over E. This is what I wanted to do. Again, professional. I'm a professional. Hey, check it out. It works beautifully for those 2 measures together. And then here, and I'm pretty sure about this, I could use the C pentatonic for both of those measures. Right, C major pentatonic is like A minor. So this is another way I could approach it. I could either think about sequences, or I could play just 2 pentatonic scales. And having this F sharp pentatonic and this C pentatonic be kind of put against each other is kind of interesting, because what's more different than F sharp and C, right? Wow, very different. So let's hear it. I'm gonna repeat these 4 measures a few times. I'll let you see what I'm playing, and I'm going to just use the pentatonic scales to improvise. sometimes I'm like not the greatest pentatonic improviser in the world. I get pretty tired of hearing myself play pentatonics. But it is a pretty elegant solution there. And as we move forward into the next two measures, these two really share a major scale. Is that true? Let me make sure it's true before I say it. No, it's not quite true. But here's the scale that they share. They actually share an A major scale. So here I indicated an E triad because this is kind of like a rocky jazz kind of a sound. But I would use like E mixolydian with that. So we could think of an A pentatonic, I think. I'm stressed now that I got one wrong. Nope, I want the D pentatonic. A pentatonic kind of works, but D pentatonic sounds really good. You might be wondering, how the heck do I know these pentatonics? And it's just process of elimination. You can memorize that every chord that has a major mode is going to have 3 pentatonics associated with it. Every major mode, just because of the intervallic pattern, will give you 3 different pentatonics. So at the beginning, I would just take 2 chords, write out all 3, see if they fit together. Melodic minor are going to have significantly fewer pentatonics. I don't know offhand. I don't know if they have any pentatonics that naturally occur in melodic minor chords. But D pentatonic is going to sound great for them. And remember that your pentatonic's only 1 note off from your blues scale, which is kind of interesting. Now, of course, it doesn't mean that if you have a pentatonic scale, if you're using a pentatonic scale, that the blue notes are all going to fit together. But you can experiment a little bit with combining pentatonic and blues. Okay, so I can use D pentatonic or A major. And then, if you look at these next 2 measures, it's actually kind of a sequence of the 2 that came before. It's the, is this true? I'm saying things that I don't know if they're true. This is the fun of watching somebody do this in real time. No, it's not exactly the same relation. It's a minor 4 to a 1, whereas the previous was a minor 5 to a 1. This could be these could use E melodic minor together. And I know generally one would not use melodic minor with a minor 7 chord, but I think it sounds nice here. That's my reasoning. I'm a great theorist. So starting from 52, we got... And when you use a scale that doesn't exactly fit with a chord, right? You just don't emphasize that note, right? Fine. In modern jazz, this is part of what makes like a modern jazz sound. So one of the things that I'm doing here is that I'm getting things into bigger chunks so that it doesn't have to be scale, 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 right? Now there's some horizontal relationships that are happening. Okay, I think this video has gone on long enough. I do get the feedback that people enjoy like watching me figure things out, so hopefully this is one of those cases and you're not just like, wow, this guy did not prepare it for a YouTube video at all. Okay. So thank you for watching. As always, I love it when you support me by buying books from my website or from Amazon, whatever. It's all good. And stay tuned for some good stuff coming up. See you later.